of Asian stock markets. WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight, as per the UN Security Council's monitoring team, Al-Qaeda and its groups have 50 times more recruits than what they had at the time of the 9/11 attack. We get to the key takeaways along with the ramifications, along with the warning from the United Nations about how terror groups have become more technologically savvy. That's coming up in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, getting you a complete roundup of the US-Iran talks and where things stand right now. Telling you how the Russia-Ukraine war has now shifted into a whole new dangerous phase. Families fleeing southeast Ukraine as frontline villages empty out. All this and more coming up. Years ago, the US launched a war on terror following the 9/11 terror attack. And while it succeeded in killing the Al-Qaeda founder Osama bin Laden and his number two, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the threat of terrorism remains as potent as ever, not just from the Al-Qaeda, but also groups like ISIS and Al-Shabaab. As per the UN Security Council's monitoring team, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates have 50 times more recruits than what they had at the time of 9/11. 50 times more. The latest data gathered via spy agencies showing that there are 25,000 Al-Qaeda fighters across the world at present, in contrast to the 500 members it had in 2001. That is what has emerged. The UN warned that terror groups have become more technologically savvy and regularly post videos on how to create armed drones and liquid explosives, thereby bolstering their threat. Let's just break this down further for you, bit by bit. When it comes to the Al-Qaeda specifically, the outfit continues to have a transnational presence. For instance, AQIM is an extremely active affiliate of the Al-Qaeda in Africa. It has around 200 fighters across southern Algeria, western Tunisia, southwestern Libya. And in case of Syria, Al-Qaeda remains a key player. For instance, concerns have been raised over the close ties which some of the new inductees in the country's army share with the terror outfit. Also, its proxy is believed to have nearly 2,000 fighters in its ranks. In fact, AQAP maintaining 2,000 to 3,000 fighters in Yemen and has conducted over 30 attacks in 2025 alone. Another Al-Qaeda affiliate, JNIM. It's a potent force in Africa. It has conducted numerous complex attacks with drones and IEDs against the security forces and civilians across Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. This terror outfit's presence in Afghanistan is largely limited to fighters of Arab origin who fought alongside the Taliban in the past. And they are believed to be present in 6 provinces, including Ghazni and Kandahar. Now, let's just turn our attention towards ISIS. It is most active in Iraq and Syria, with an estimated strength of 1,500 to 3,000 fighters. 1,500 to 3,000 fighters. Moreover, there are nearly 7,000 incarcerated ISIS members in Syria who are being transferred to Iraq. Now, the group has a presence in Nigeria as well, with its affiliates, Islamic State in Greater Sahara and the Lokarwa Group, which was targeted by US strikes in December last year. The neighboring country of Niger has the presence of fighters of Islamic State West Africa province, another ISIS affiliate. Besides this terror outfit also has a foothold in Libya and Somalia. One of the main current threats, though, is emerging from an ISIS offshoot called Islamic State Khorasan Province, or ISKP, based in Afghanistan and Pakistan. In 2025, 2 key leaders of ISKP, we're talking about Mohammad Sharifullah, the alleged mastermind of the 2021 bombing that killed 13 US troops, and its spokesperson, Sultan Aziz, were arrested. In fact, the tentacles of ISIS have spread even to the Philippines, where the Islamic State Southeast Asia Division has a marginal presence. On the other hand, Al-Shabaab is a big factor in Somalia, as it reportedly controls 30% of the country's territory. The outfit has intensified its operations in southern and central Somalia and even temporarily captured towns and supply routes leading into the capital city, Mogadishu. The number of Al-Shabaab fighters, in fact, is estimated to be 18,000. Now, let's just shift our attention to the question of how serious the world really is about these threats. Over the last few months, in fact, alleged ISIS operatives have been taken into custody across multiple paths, including Ethiopia, the US, France, even India. Besides this, Mehmet Goren, a Turkish national and a senior ISIS leader, was arrested from the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. He had been tasked with organizing suicide attacks, targeting civilians in Europe, Turkey, Afghanistan, Pakistan. However, the world is going through a rather tumultuous phase, of course. Wars have been raging. There is growing uncertainty, to say the least, as unity between global powers remains elusive. It's also raising a serious question. Is battling terrorism no longer a top priority? It's quite clear from the past, countries can ignore terrorism, but solely at their own peril. Moving on, Iran and the United States held talks in Oman today, a very crucial day, in one of the most consequential diplomatic efforts in years, in fact. And now there are cautious signs of progress. The high-stakes talks mediated by Oman to avert a full-blown war in West Asia have ended with the Iranian side calling it positive. On Friday, Iran's foreign minister, in fact, said, I'm quoting now, in a very positive atmosphere, our arguments were exchanged and the views of the other side were shared with us. According to the minister, the two sides will decide on the modalities and the timing of the future talks at a later date. And he said negotiators will now determine the way forward after consulting with their respective capitals. In his words, the way forward will depend on our consultations with our capitals. That's the statement. Now, these are the first official negotiations, remember, since America bombed Iranian nuclear facilities last year, a move that pushed the two countries to the brink of direct confrontation. But while diplomats talk, warships and fighter jets are also gathering nearby, sending out powerful messages that diplomacy is also being backed by force. It's a rather testing time. But what is it that Iran actually wanted from these talks? Let's just take stock of that right now. American and Iranian officials met separately with Oman's foreign minister, who is acting as the mediator. He held discussions with Iran's top diplomat, Abbas Araghchi, and the U.S. Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, along with Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Oman's foreign ministry has said that the talks focused on creating conditions to resume diplomatic and technical negotiations. Just to put this simply, both sides tested whether serious talks are even possible amid the low expectations. Earlier, U.S. officials have told Western publications that they want these talks to go beyond nuclear issues. We've been telling you about that. In fact, they wanted the talks to cover Iran's missile program and its support for the groups in the region. Iran, however, made its position very clear. For Tehran, this is about one thing and one thing alone: nuclear sanctions relief. Nothing else. And that is where the first major clash begins. You see, the central dispute here is over uranium enrichment. Western countries and Israel accusing Iran of trying to develop nuclear weapons, something that Tehran strongly denies. Before last year's war, Iran was accused of enriching uranium up to 60% purity, dangerously close to weapons-grade levels. And for context here, nuclear weapons require enrichment of about 90%. Under the 2015 nuclear deal, Iran was capped at just 3.67%. But then after America withdrew from that deal in 2018, Iran gradually abandoned its limits. And now President Trump is demanding something far stricter, a complete end to enrichment. Iran says that's a red line. It insists it has the right to peaceful nuclear energy under international law. The second major issue here is Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium. After US strikes on the sites at Fordow, Natanz, Isfahan last year, the location of more than 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium remains unclear. Iran says much of it is buried under rubble. Officials claim it's too dangerous to retrieve and that they are discussing safety measures with the UN nuclear watchdog. Now, several countries, including Russia, have offered to store Iran's uranium abroad. Tehran has refused. Instead, Iran says it's willing to dilute the uranium, lowering its enrichment level, basically, but only if sanctions are lifted in return. In other words, no economic relief, no nuclear compromise. Iran wants nuclear and nothing else. Washington disagrees, and that makes any comprehensive deal extremely difficult. Meanwhile, the pressure has also been mounting. US warships, aircraft have gathered near Iranian waters. President Trump, in fact, has warned that bad things will happen if the talks fail. The White House has openly reminded Iran that military options remain on the table. Experts saying this military buildup is not accidental. It raises the stakes and also increases the risk of miscalculation. Some analysts even suggest that a limited military confrontation could serve Trump politically by diverting attention away from domestic problems. But Iran has also issued its own warning, of course. Officials are saying any attack would be treated as a threat to the survival of the regime and would be met with retaliation. The Russia-Ukraine war, meanwhile, has shifted into a new brutal phase. families are fleeing southeast Ukraine as the frontline villages empty out. Reports say Kiev's forces are under immense pressure, with air defense missiles running dangerously low and Russia pushing forward.
The ground trembles. Smoke rises over fields once planted with sunflowers. Villagers in southeastern Ukraine are packing up and leaving, and not by choice. As Russian troops march towards the Zaporizhzhia region, civilians are abandoning their homes near the front line. The threat of shelling and drone strikes haunts every dusty road.
It's scary. Nobody wants to die. I know I don't have much time left, but this kind of death...
After all these shellings, when 3 houses in our village were destroyed, it became very frightening, and we decided to leave. First of all, it's about protecting the children, making sure they have normal living conditions. That's what we are afraid of.
Police teams and volunteers roam the main regional road, which is shrouded in anti-drone netting, to rescue residents in danger. While closing on the so-called fortress belt of cities in the eastern Donetsk region, Russian troops are also advancing towards Zaporizhzhia, which is the capital of one of the 4 Ukrainian regions the Kremlin has claimed as its own, despite occupying only part of the Zaporizhzhia region. But this ground struggle is not the only strain on Ukrainian defense. The Ukrainian Air Force has acknowledged a critical shortage of missiles needed to intercept Russian strikes. Some air defense launchers sit with only a fraction of their usual ammunition, sometimes just 2 missiles where 6 should be ready. That shortage comes at a punishing time. Russia has launched a wave of drones, guided bombs, cruise missiles and ballistic weapons in recent months. President Zelensky has urged allies for more systems and munitions to protect cities, infrastructure and civilians, especially during the harsh winter when damaging energy networks can deepen the toll. Analysts reviewing air defense data paint a clear picture. Fewer interceptors mean more Russian weapons are breaking through, striking power grids, homes and vital facilities across Ukraine. On the diplomatic front, a second round of talks between the warring sides ended on Thursday with no breakthrough on key issues announced. But the warring sides exchanging dozens of captured soldiers on the same day. Ukraine, Russia and the US all claimed some progress in the talks without giving details, but said more work needs to be done. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And before we go on, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. To what extent is artificial intelligence shaking up global markets? We're telling you all that you need to know about the ripple effects. A detailed report coming up on how Brazil's biggest bank scam has triggered massive protests and investigations, mounting anger on the ground. All this and more coming up. Pakistan's capital, a suicide bomber today killed at least 31 people and injured almost 170 others during Friday prayers in a Shiite Muslim mosque. This is the deadliest attack of its kind in the capital in over a decade, in fact. Images from the site showed bloodied bodies lying on the carpeted mosque floor, surrounded by shards of glass, debris. Panicked worshippers seen in the footage. Dozens more were injured, lying in the gardens of the mosque. This is in a semi-urban area on the outskirts of Islamabad as people called for help. In fact, the explosion took place after a suicide bomber detonated himself. Explosives at the main gate of the place of worship during afternoon hours. Police officials saying the attacker was stopped at the gate of the mosque before detonating the bomb. The attack comes during the 2-day official visit of the Uzbekistan president, remember. And following the blast, the Islamabad Inspector General of Police declared a city-wide emergency. While rescue and law enforcement teams rushed to the spot amid fears of multiple casualties, the injured have now been shifted to the Pakistan Institute of Medical Sciences and Polyclinic Hospital. Pakistan's Prime Minister has condemned the explosion. The President has expressed deep grief and sorrow over the incident. Shiites, who are in the minority in the predominantly Sunni Muslim nation of 241 million, have been targeted in sectarian violence several times in the past. They have been targeted by Islamic State and the Sunni Islamist group Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Today's attack comes less than 3 months after a suicide blast outside a district and sessions court building in Islamabad. This was on the 11th of November 2025. 12 people lost their lives, more than 30 were injured because of that blast. Years after the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's death, the newly released Epstein files are now being called one of the biggest document dumps in modern American legal history. They include FBI summaries, internal memos, emails, financial records, previously sealed testimony. How did one man gain access to some of the most powerful people in the world? Who protected him? Here are 10 key revelations now from the Epstein files, one by one. Epstein was negotiating with prosecutors before his death. Just days before his death, in that New York jail in 2019, Epstein's lawyers were in talks with the federal prosecutors. According to FBI documents, they discussed possible cooperation and a potential deal. But no concrete proposal was finalized. Less than 2 weeks later, Epstein was dead. His death was officially ruled a suicide, but these revelations have also reignited doubts, reportedly. Also, the key takeaway, FBI logged unverified tips involving Donald Trump, reportedly. One document reportedly revealing the FBI received multiple tips linking Epstein and Donald Trump. The claims were never verified, reportedly. The Justice Department has now clarified that many submissions may be false, misleading, or politically motivated, especially ahead of the 2020 election. Trump has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, remember. Also, Elon Musk had more contact than known earlier. Emails showing Elon Musk and Epstein exchanged friendly messages. They even discussed visits to Epstein's private island in 2012 and 2013, reportedly. Trips that never happened. Musk says he declined every invitation and had minimal contact. The U.S. Commerce Secretary's planned island visit, reportedly. The files reveal that He, who is now America's Commerce Secretary, made plans to visit Epstein's island in 2012. He says he cut ties years earlier and denies any misconduct. And perhaps the most shocking, email suggesting Prince Andrew invited Epstein to the Buckingham Palace in 2010. This was after Epstein had served time for soliciting a minor, reportedly. The correspondence showing Epstein requesting private time, reportedly. Prince Andrew later claimed he had gone to end their friendship, and whether the meeting happened remains unclear. Virgin Group founder Richard Branson exchanged emails with Epstein in 2013. One message referred to Epstein's harem, Branson's office saying the contact was limited to business meetings and that he condemns Epstein's crimes. Emails from 2003 showing Ghislaine Maxwell, now jailed for sex trafficking, exchanging explicit messages with the head of the LA Olympics Committee, reportedly. Cassie has apologized and said the emails were sent before Maxwell's crimes were known. In fact, New York Giants co-owner appears hundreds of times in the files, reportedly. Emails suggesting Epstein helped connect him with women. He says he regrets any association and never visited the island. Bank records reportedly indicating multiple payments from Epstein to British political figure Peter Mandelson. There are also records of money sent to Mandelson's husband. Mandelson denies knowledge of the payments and has resigned from political roles. Also, a newly released image showing filmmaker Brett Ratner seated beside Epstein with two women. Ratner earlier denied knowing Epstein. He has not commented on the photograph. Beyond these shocking revelations, the Epstein files revealing that for years, Epstein moved freely among presidents, billionaires, royals, politicians, celebrities. Despite repeated warnings and earlier convictions, he continued operating clearly. And his victims say institutions failed them by ignoring all of these red flags. And that is why now, despite these disturbing details coming out, several questions remain, fresh ones in fact. Why was Epstein even allowed to negotiate after his arrest, for example? Why were powerful figures never fully investigated? And who else may still be shielded? Lawyers for the victims saying more revelations are coming. While files may not deliver final justice, they do expose how wealth and influence can impact accountability even in democratic systems. And the Epstein scandal is clearly far from over. And the Jeffrey Epstein case continues to cast a long shadow after a series of emails released by U.S. authorities revealed details about former Prince Andrew's close ties to Epstein, reportedly. The British Parliament has decided to scrutinize his alleged misuse of royal authority. He was stripped of his royal titles last year after one of Epstein's victims leveled allegations of sexual assault against him. Under immense pressure, the disgraced royal moved out of the Royal Lodge, a 30-room mansion, earlier this week. It is this very house which has now become the subject of a major controversy. Former Prince Andrew leased this property for a period of 75 years in 2003, while he made a one-time payment of $1.3 million under the terms of the agreement. He is believed to have paid no rent in the last 2 decades. And the UK Parliament's Public Accounts Committee has launched a probe into this matter. The committee's chairman, in fact, revealed that MPs were concerned whether lease arrangements for Royal Lodge were achieving the best value for money. Royal Lodge is a part of the Windsor estate, whose profits go entirely into the public exchequer, just for context here. He added that any reduced income will be a cost to the taxpayers. And this has brought great scrutiny over the British royal family and its opaque finances. As per the Sovereign Grant Act of 2011, the UK government provides annual financial support to the monarch, which is equivalent to 12% profits from the Crown estate. While the accounts are audited every year, questions have been raised over an exponential rise in the sovereign grant, from $10.7 million to $179.4 million in 2025. Now, it's crucial to note here that this funding only covers expenses related to their official duties and the upkeep of properties and staffing. But anti-monarchy campaigners claim that the state funding for the royal household is only a fraction of the real cost to the taxpayers. According to them, $613 million is spent on the royal family. They also flag the fact that profits from property businesses of the Duchess of Lancaster and Cornwall are entirely retained by the royals and not passed on to the government. Now, with the inquiry on Prince Andrew set to kickstart later this year, royal finances will finally be discussed threadbare in the British Parliament. Global markets may be rebounding today, but do not mistake this bounce for confidence. Behind the recovery, investors remain worried, anxious, on edge, amid the mounting fears over AI and the massive amounts of money being poured into it. After days of heavy selling in technology stocks, buyers stepped in, US stock futures erased early losses, S&P 500 contracts climbed 0.5%, Nasdaq futures rose around 0.6%. Bitcoin also, in fact, bounced back, rising nearly 5%. After slipping to its lowest level since October 2024, gold and silver found support. On the surface, it looked like calm returning to the markets. But there is still uncertainty because this rebound is not about optimism. It's about investors basically asking one question: has the sell-off gone way too far? Is something deeper breaking here? You see, the turbulence started after fresh concerns emerged about artificial intelligence, real concerns, literally about how much it's costing. Amazon's shares, in fact, fell more than 8% after announcing plans to spend nearly $200 billion this year on AI infrastructure, spending that is rising faster than its cloud revenues, by the way. And Amazon is not alone. 4 major tech firms are now expected to invest around $650 billion in data centers, chips, AI systems this year. And the scale of spending has rattled investors. Many fear companies are racing ahead without clear returns. At the same time, new AI models from startups like Anthropic are threatening to disrupt entire software industries, raising questions about which businesses survive and which don't. And as a result, a sharp sell-off in the market happened, followed by a cautious rebound. Across Wall Street, investors are now trying to separate genuine long-term winners from overvalued hype, just to put this simply. This is no longer just about tech. It's about the entire economic outlook. Because just have a look at the bond markets, for example. Flashing warning signs. US Treasury yields fell, especially at the short end. The dollar also weakened slightly. Investors are now betting that interest rate cuts could return later this year. And as per strategists, there is a new risk. Strong economic growth, but also weakening employment, partly driven by AI replacing jobs. A scenario that could also force central banks to rethink policy. So a lot of ramifications here. Meanwhile, the shockwaves are spreading fast globally. In Asia, tech stocks whipsawed. South Korea's index fell more than 5% at one point before recovering some ground. Key suppliers to the AI boom led the swings. Taiwan and Hong Kong tech stocks also coming under pressure. Analysts are saying Asia remains highly exposed to the shifts in AI sentiment because chip makers sit at the heart of the global infrastructure spending. Despite the volatility, South Korea's market is still up sharply this year. But then investors are also nervous. After such rapid gains, even small doubts trigger big moves after all. In Europe, markets also tried to stabilize. Frankfurt and London gained. Paris, meanwhile, lagged behind. Dragged down by Stellantis, which plunged 25% after warning of massive write-downs linked to misjudging the electric vehicle transition. The company's shares are now down around 80%. Over 2 years, a reminder that tech disruption is hitting traditional industries as well. And Bitcoin, which had fallen sharply, also attempted a recovery, but it remains far below its recent highs, showing basically that even digital assets are not immune to risk-off moods. So what does all of this really tell us? Are tech giants spending too much, too fast? Will AI deliver profits or will it disappoint? And are the markets even prepared for the social and economic impact of automation? This has been a rather brutal week for tech, and the nerves are far from settled at this point. But investors also remain concerned because in the race for AI, no one knows yet who will win and who will end up paying the price. The quantum of missing persons in India's national capital has become the subject of a raging debate. While Delhi police issued a clarification, there are still concerns over the state of crime in Delhi, after it emerged that 807 people had gone missing between January 1 and January 15 in Delhi. Panic set in, of course. However, the Delhi police highlighted that there was no rise in missing persons as compared to last January. Listen to this.
There is no need to fear or panic regarding the missing persons in Delhi, especially children. Compared to the past, there has been no increase in reporting missing persons in Delhi. In January 2026, compared to the same period last year, there has been a drop in reporting missing persons. It is also worth mentioning that Delhi police follows the policy of fair and transparent reporting of crime.
As per the data shared by the Delhi police, 1,777 people went missing this January. 9 more people went missing in the same month in 2025. Now, this marked a slight reduction in the number of people reported missing. Officials also hinted that some may have left home voluntarily under pretext of marriage or after having an argument with the family members, reportedly. While a dip in missing people is welcome, Delhi fares poorly as far as the rate of recovery is concerned of missing people. According to the NCRB data, Delhi recorded a recovery rate of barely 35.6% in 2022, which is less than 30 other states and union territories in the country. And in the year 2023, the national capital's recovery rate improved to 47%. However, it was still below the national average of 53% and less than 29 states and union territories. This indicates that there is enough scope for the Delhi police to further improve the state of affairs in the national capital. Switching gears, Thailand at this point standing at a major political juncture. Voters are preparing to decide the country's direction after years of turbulence, and this election on Sunday is not just about power, it's about the future of democracy, stability and control. Our next report getting you the latest.
Campaign posters line the streets of Bangkok. Loudspeakers roll through the roads. Social media is ablaze. Thailand is heading into one of its most high-stakes general elections in years. The outcome is set to shape the country's political order and its relationship with the military, the monarchy, and the wider world. The mood on the ground is mixed.
Honestly, I want them to come to power. I want them to try governing for 4 years. Governments only get 4 years. If you're not capable, then it's over and we choose someone else.
I want whoever is elected to develop the country. I don't want corruption. I don't want shady businesses.
Thailand's most successful political party of modern times, the Pheu Thai, is heading for its worst ever election performance. Its founder, Thaksin Shinawatra, jailed, and his daughter ousted as Prime Minister in 2025 by court order. But the party still remains a strong force.
So all things considered, the party should be dead. But on the ground, its network is still quite intact. And the campaign is going moderately okay compared to the previous one. Not too bad because the bar was set so high in the previous election.
Reformist parties are pushing to weaken the military's influence and rewrite rules put in place after past coups. Conservative and pro-establishment forces are fighting to preserve a system they say guarantees stability.
The People's Party might find it very difficult to form a coalition with other parties due to its strong political stance and ideology. On the contrary, the Phum Chai Thai is seen as a favorite party by network of political elites, especially the conservative networks.
Southeast Asia's second largest economy, famed for its beaches and laid-back lifestyle, is a tourism powerhouse. However, as the political heat rises, the country's world-famous party spots are going stone-cold dry. Under Thai law, a 24-hour nationwide alcohol ban is in effect from 6 p.m. Saturday until 6 p.m. Sunday. Bars, nightclubs and five-star resorts have been forced to lock their cabinets, leaving millions of tourists high and dry during the peak travel season. Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
The collapse of a Brazilian bank has become a major controversy. For the president's government, hundreds of protesters now hitting the streets, in fact, in Sao Paulo, demanding justice. They are on the streets. In fact, speaking at the protest site, a member of Brazil's lower house stressed that people want the investigations to reach the logical conclusion.
We are here to ensure that the investigations are carried through to the end, that it does not turn to ashes, that all those responsible are arrested, because we know that powerful people from the judiciary and the legislature are involved.
Another demonstrator called for impeachment of the person who was nominated to Brazil's Supreme Court by the president.
Here we are fighting for Vorcaro, who is the president of Banco Master, to come clean, name everyone involved, and for the impeachment of Dias Toffoli, who is our Supreme Court minister and is allegedly involved in the case.
Now, just for context here, a quick backgrounder. This controversy dates back to last year when Brazilian businessman Daniel Vorcaro was arrested in November, perceived to be a banker with a flashy lifestyle, reportedly. He was a major shareholder in a privately owned bank, which operated in Sao Paulo's financial hub. Now, here's what happened, really. The bank offered investment products that were allegedly more profitable than those of his competitors. And in the year 2024, the country's central bank realized that it did not have the resources to meet its obligations. The 42-year-old businessman was finally taken into custody in connection with an alleged fraudulent scheme between the bank and a state-owned bank, reportedly. And after this, the authorities liquidated the bank, leaving more than $7 billion in debt. And this left around 800,000 investors in the lurch. The case gained a different dimension after the Supreme Court Justice ordered the case proceedings to be kept secret. Thereafter, it emerged that Toffoli shared a private jet with a lawyer of a master executive arrested in the case. A land deal between Vorcaro's brother-in-law and Toffoli's brother, reportedly, also came under suspicion. The businessman openly claimed to have friends in all branches of the government. His closeness to the authorities came to the fore when the president met him in 2024, reportedly, even though the bank's liquidity problems were well known back then. Ricardo Lewandowski, who served as Brazil's law minister from 2024 to 25, also came into the spotlight after Master Bank had a $1 million contract with his legal firm, reportedly, with speculation rife that the brother-in-law was the largest donor to the ex-president Bolsonaro's 2022 election campaign. People are seeking all influential culprits to be brought to the book. The death toll in a mine explosion in India's Meghalaya has risen to 19 as the rescue operations continue. The district officials have said that the explosion occurred at an illegal rat hole mine in the East Jaintia Hills. The explosion reportedly occurred when the workers were using dynamite for illegal mining on the government land. The intensity of the blast caused a portion of the hill to collapse, burying several workers.
We could recover underbody. So the total death is 19 and 8 is injured as of now. The identity of those who died could not be established as of now. And the identity of those who are injured also could not be established. Investigation is going on. And more importantly, 2 persons have been arrested.
And following the incident, Prime Minister Modi has announced an amount of 200,000 Indian rupees for the family of the deceased. The explosion has exposed the harsh reality of illegal mining in the region. Once used extensively in India's northeastern states, rat hole miners are named for the narrow tunnels. They were banned in 2014 because of the large number of fatalities and the damage caused to the environment. And according to the government estimates, over 60 people have died during illegal rat hole mining in Assam and Meghalaya since 2012. Music history is heading to the auction block as iconic instruments linked to Kurt Cobain and the Beatles go under the hammer. These instruments offering fans a rare chance to own a piece of rock legend. More details in our next report.
I'm standing in front of a group of Beatles instruments, and actually I think it's fair to say that this collection of Beatles instruments, some of which aren't here as well because we couldn't bring them to Los Angeles, is the most important assembled Beatles collection for somebody who wasn't a member of the band.
Power, politics and personal branding colliding once again. Reports saying President Trump floated a startling bargain behind closed doors, reportedly offering federal money for a critical New York tunnel in exchange for his name on the project. Our next report getting you a look at the naming spree undertaken by the US president.
It sounds like satire, but reports suggest it is serious. Donald Trump reportedly offered to unfreeze billions of US dollars in federal funding for a long-delayed New York City rail tunnel. Trump has one condition: name it after him. The tunnel project is no small matter, designed to modernize aging rail links under the Hudson River. It is vital for commuters, commerce, and national transport security. Delays already cost billions. Every pause pushes the final bill higher. But according to reports, Trump saw leverage and an opportunity to cement his legacy in concrete and steel. Trump also wants Washington's Dulles International Airport to be named after him. The airport in U.S. Capitol carries the name of John Foster Dulles, a towering figure in U.S. foreign policy. He served as a U.S. Secretary of State under President Dwight Eisenhower in the 1950s. Now, this would not be his first act of self-naming. Trump Tower dominates Manhattan's skyline. Then golf courses, resorts, vineyards, and even steak and bottled water have carried the Trump brand. Reports say the U.S. has repeatedly pushed to attach his name to public spaces, awards, and even policy initiatives. In December, Trump launched a new class of warships named after him. The U.S. president also renamed the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Again, the United States Institute of Peace Building in Washington has been renamed as Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. Historians point out that U.S. presidents are usually honored after they leave office. Libraries, ships, highways, sometimes airports. Trump, by contrast, has shown impatience for this delayed praise. He prefers recognition in real time in capital letters. We report WION World is One.
A 5-inch drawing of a foot by Michelangelo sold for $27.2 million, setting a new auction record for the Italian artist. In fact, the drawing sold for almost 20 times the estimated value after 45 minutes of intense bidding. Take a look.
Some interest. Are we already on the telephones? I will open the bidding here for the Michelangelo, please, at 300,000, 1,400,000 now, at 1,500,000. Thank you. Sophie has it at 1,500,000, at 1,500,000. Ready.
The Netherlands has now returned a 3,500-year-old Egyptian sculpture after investigators confirmed it was looted and illegally removed. The ancient artifact resurfaced at a Dutch art fair in 2022 and was later traced back. Egyptian officials saying this restores dignity, history, and cultural heritage.
Our policy is to return what doesn't belong to us and to return it always to the rightful cultural group or country. So we do live by that as well. It's not just an aspiration, it actually dictates our actions as well.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gampir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good weekend.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.